Today we're going to be working on the EQ of the snare. I'm going to break it down into three main sections. There's going to be the body of the snare, which is the bass and the real beef of it. There's going to be the crack of the snare, which you want for the snare to stand out in the mix. And then there's going to be the crispness of the snare, which is the third part, which is just the real high end there, just to make it fizz a little bit. So what I've got here is the same snare clip that I had in my last video about searching and destroying frequencies in the snare. Go check that out if you haven't seen it already. And I've just brought up another EQ screen here. So like I said, there's going to be a few areas that you want to EQ. So we're going to start with the body of the snare. This is going to be between the 100 and 300 hertz value, and it'll vary from snare to snare. So you've got to find, by boosting the waveform here as much as you can, find the sound that you kind of want your snare to have the body of. I think mine sounds fairly good with this, so I'm just going to boost it 6.5 around 170. Now we're going to move on to the crack of the snare. That's usually found between 500 hertz and 1K. So again, we're going to boost it up here, find out where it sounds good. I think mine sounds right around kind of high 700s, and we're going to boost it by about 5.5. Great. So the last bit is just going to be the crispness of the snare. Now, I've got to emphasize, you don't want to put too much of this in there because it can sound really obnoxious if you have too much high end, because it'll fizz too much and it's uncomfortable to listen to. So just add maybe 1 to maybe 3 decibels. Around 7.5K sounds pretty good. So that's what we've got so far. The last thing you're going to want to do on top of all this is just remove anything below 50 hertz. Because that isn't going to do anything other than muddy the mix and make it sound unpleasant. So this is the finished product, and this is what it sounds like without EQ. And I'm bringing it back. The EQ isn't meant to change the entire sound of the snare. You've got to have a good sounding snare in the first place if you want it to sound nice. The EQ is just meant to make it stand out in the mix a little bit more and make it a little bit more pleasant to listen to. So I hope you've got something from this demo, and I'll see you for the next lesson.